Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. I'm going to give it a minute for people to get situated and join us. And we are here every Tuesday, barring some holidays or technical issues, at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The training will last roughly an hour and a half. It sometimes goes a little longer than that, but I'll try to keep it at an hour and a half or less if at all possible. But it's got another minute here before the official start time here, so we'll give people that minute here to join us. Most of the training will take place within the dashboard itself, but right now you should see our login page. Now you can get here either having by bookmarked the page already, but if you're on the VirtualPBX web page, you'll see a blue bar towards the top of the web page. There'll be a link there to log in as well as to the support pages. Or you can just simply type in -dash.virtualpbx.com. Once you're there, to log in, we need your username, which is your email address. Usually the one you use to sign up with us, or what your admin used to create your user. Your password, which was hopefully emailed to you, and then your account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you don't have that information, you can click on the Forgot Your Info, this link right here, right up on the right side, just above the sign-in bar. So you click here. We still need your email address. All right, that first piece of information, that's the one thing we always need. Then we need one of these two, right? Either the account name, right, business name, company name, or a company phone number, right, what your customers call to reach you, one of those two. And then you would click reset password. The system will then email you and have a link in that email which would log you in and allows you to change your password. Once you've done that, it's going to log you back out, back to the login page here, mostly so you can retype that password one more time, but also so you can click on Remember Me and then get yourself signed in. All right, so I'm using a demo account that's I've logged into several times. So by default, I'm taken here to the dashboard page. Now, if this is your first time signing in, or just like you just signed up, the system will actually take you to your account page. You can always get back here by clicking on your name up here at the top. And this is where you can change like your own password if you wanted to. Most people end up changing like their time of day format and or their time zone. Now, this is just your user information. Over here to the left, you can click on account. And because I'm assistant admin here, I can change the account level. And again, the main thing that's changed here is the time zone and or language. Now, on your accounts, right, you have a live account. You're also going to have a section under where it says user for the billing information. Things like your service plan, you'll be able to see invoices. You can see who your billing contact is and edit that information, right? So the person who's getting the invoices or essentially the overall account owner, right? The person who controls everything. And you can also update your credit card information under that billing section. Again, this is a test account, so I don't have that information here. Now that first time logging in, you're going to have the dash wizard with pop-ups, right, telling you what certain things are and what you can do. When you're done here, right, over here in the top right, click on close. You'll be taken to the dashboard. Now, again, that first time logging in, dash wizard is going to pop up on the dashboard page, on the groups page, and on the users page, just to tell you how things work, right? We'll get into all of that, so it's not really necessary here. Oh, so at the top here, again, you can click on your name at any time to get to that user page. For many of you, right to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle for Do Not Disturb, right? It's off by default, but if you click on it, it'll turn white, meaning it's on, and that means calls to you will go to voicemail or won't be offered to you if you're, depending on where your user is assigned. The reason it's not available for me here is because my user has been assigned to an Acd queue. Once you're put into the Acd queues, the D&D toggle goes away, right? Because queues and do not disturb do not work well together. Here, you've got the little help icon, all right, question mark. Learn more. This will open up a new tab and take you directly to the support pages. So you can look at guides with screenshots and text telling you how to set up certain features. Chat with us. This will open up a chat window in your bottom, usually in the bottom right of your browser, where you could chat with one of our support team members. Oops. Online store. This will open up a new tab and take you to store.virtualpbx.com. And this is where you could order things like a physical VoIP phone or a router. Now there's a blank spot here that is sometimes filled depending on the user. That blank spot can be filled with a web phone link. Web phone is a VoIP device that uses Chrome or Firefox on a computer, right? Not a mobile version of those apps or those browsers, but then it allows you to make and receive calls right from the browser. Then we got the 3 horizontal line icon or the hamburger icon, menu icon. These will take you to other dash features. Again, we'll primarily be in the dashboard for the majority of this training, but we will touch on these other areas. Some of these are either plan specific or have upgrade fees associated with them, and I'll be sure to let you know what those are. And then we have the logout icon. Gonna skip down a little bit here. Total users, these are all the people on my account who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are on a per user basis. So the more users I add, the higher my bill goes. So that's something to be aware of. Total devices, I have 32, and then I have a breakdown. Now, Dash was designed from the get-go to be for use with VoIP phones in mind. If you don't already know, VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. It really just means using the internet to make and receive calls. Right. So first, the breakdown here is soft phone, right? Software application that acts as a phone. So it's an app on a computer, on even a smartphone or a tablet. You have to have internet connection, but then you use that app to use your internet to make and receive calls. Right. Oh, I should point out the soft phone. That includes the VirtualPBX soft phone application as well as third-party applications. That's just one lump that they're all here. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. Web phone, which I have already mentioned, is technically a kind of soft phone, right? Because a browser is software. It was developed later than soft phones and was included later on. So that's why it's partially why that's a separate line item. And then SIP phone, this is a physical VoIP phone, right? Sits on a desk, you pick up a handset, you dial numbers. There are other kinds of VoIP phones on the market. So if you're out shopping, either online or in person, just make sure the phones you are going to purchase are SIP compliant or SIP compatible. Excuse me, I had a little coughing fit there. When we get into the devices, I'll be able to show you what are called auto provisionable phones. So these are phones that are fully supported. And so then you could look for, that'll give you makes and models you can specifically look for. All right, down here I have unregistered devices. Whoa, there we go. It says I have 3, and this would be, typically this is in relation to my SIP phones. So it's saying, hey, 3 of your phones are not connected properly. And that's what that means. Unregistered means the system cannot tell that or cannot send calls to those devices, right? Could be that they're not plugged in right now, right? Could be anywhere from something simple like not being plugged in properly to router settings being incorrect to they're having an internet outage at that particular location. Total numbers, 23. This is total phone numbers, right? Customer-facing phone numbers. Most plans include anywhere from 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. For the specifics for your plan, right, so how many phone numbers are included and what the overage is for each additional number, you'd want to talk to our account services team, just because plans have changed over time. So some have different rates than others or than current plans. All right, then I have a breakdown here of assigned numbers and spare numbers. Assigned number means it's in use, right? So someone can call that number and either be able to speak to somebody or / leave a voicemail, join a conference, be sending a fax, etc. All right, spare number still counts as part of my allotment, but I'm not using it right now. So we can say, like here in the US, or for most of the world maybe, right, Valentine's Day was just a little while ago. President's Day, we just ended, right? So you might have had a promotion that was running through either one of those, and then now it's over. So then you can put that number as a spare number, so you're not getting calls about a promotion that's no longer in effect. Or you're saving a number for a future promotion, right? Then we have this breakdown here, USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US-Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833. USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So in any specific part of the United States. So you can have a number in, say, San Diego, California, another number in Chicago, Illinois, right? You have another number, say, in Miami, Florida. You can also have international numbers. If you're interested in that, you need to send an email to porting, that's PORTING, at virtualpbx.com. They need to know the city and country that you're interested in having a phone number in. They will let you know if there are additional requirements. Those requirements come from those countries or their telephone regulatory agency. So if there's additional requirements, our porting team will let you know. You then send that in to us. We submit that, and then we can then get you a international number. Conference bridges. This just means I've enabled conferencing on 2 of my users, right? That means I have 2 users who are hosting or moderating conferences. If we go over here to the top right, you see main number. These 4 phone numbers, they all act the same way, right? So they all go to the same location. They all have the same main greeting. Then we have my conference number. You can have multiple conference numbers if you so choose, but this phone number, in this case, is what everyone dials to get to the conference rooms. Whether they're my staff members, my vendors, my clients, they all dial this, and then they get to this individual conference rooms. The fax box number. Oops. You can have one main fax box number, but this is the number that you receive faxes on. All right, company directory. This downloads a CSV file, so you can see people's their names, their extensions, and their primary device, or primary VoIP device. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. You would download this file and then upload it to the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app. This allows you to see the presence or status of your other users in relation to the VirtualPBX soft phone, right? So if all your staff is using VirtualPBX soft phones, then you have an easy way to see what their status is, right? You can see, oh, so-and-so is on a call, right? Coworker Mike on a call coworker Jeff on a call, but then you see coworker Don is available, so then you can call him and have a conversation about a shared customer, for example. One thing to note about the soft phone directory, if you have users with multiple devices, so let's say my coworker Jeff, he has the soft phone app, but he also has a physical Yealink phone, right? The soft phone directory won't allow me to see his status in relation to that Yealink phone. So something to be aware of. All right, store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in that store.virtualpbx.com link. So basically get a small discount on hardware. And then we have the account realm. This is, again, unique for each customer. This is used in a couple things, right? First, it's used to program a third-party application. That's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need to provision or program say a soft phone from another company. So Zoipier or Xlite. It's also used for faxing out. So on Dash, to fax out, once you set up your fax box properly, you create an email like you normally would, right? Like you're emailing your boss, right? So you create email. In the to field, you put the plus sign, the number 1, area code and phone number, @ your account realm. Then you attach a PDF or a TIFF file and click send, right? The system only looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. You want to make sure you only have one attachment. That's your document that you're faxing, right? So get rid of any signature files. And again, make sure it's a PDF or a TIFF. Up here, we have caller ID, or company caller ID. This pull down, which unfortunately doesn't show properly on my streaming software, you can select any of your main numbers. And then you have the company caller ID name. This allows you to input 15 characters, including spaces and special characters that you want to show up as part of your caller ID. Down here, we have the company emergency information, or E911. This needs to be a North American address, and then you would click on Save Changes. Now, once you click on Save Changes, this company caller ID name information is transmitted to the other carriers that support CNAME, or CNOM, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It takes them about 3 business days to update their databases. So then when you make an outbound call from your VoIP device, by default, right, this 408 number would be my outbound caller ID, and this VPBX test is what we transmitted as my company caller ID name. If my call happens to go through a carrier that doesn't support CNAME, and that is possible, then that CNAME information doesn't go through, right? Just my phone number goes through. As I implied there, not every carrier supports CNAME. It's usually a small or regional carrier that doesn't support it. The other thing to keep in mind about CNAME is that the network that device is on that you're calling, right? The destination device, they control what actually shows up on their phones and their network. Cell phone providers typically don't provide CNAME as a free feature, right? So I know I haven't looked recently, but on AT&T, who's my carrier, right? They wanted to charge $10 a month for company caller ID name to show up on every call. I'm personally not willing to pay that. So I don't get the company caller ID on most calls. All right, hold music. So on Dash, hold music is defined as after a call has reached a user, right? So someone of your staff has picked up a call, and then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That is when the hold music will play. You can upload your own file. You just need to find a .wav, .mp3, or .ogg file. You want to make sure it's recorded in mono, and that is under 1 megabyte in size. All right, find the file. You would click the up arrow icon here, and then click on Save Changes. Now, ours is actually part of main number, so we'll just go to main number and work our way down. All right, So first up, we have main company numbers, right? So these are all the numbers that my customers can call, my default numbers, whether they're toll-free numbers or I have many local numbers. If I decide I no longer want to use one of these numbers as a main number, I can click unassign next to it. Now, that doesn't remove the number from my account, right? It just puts it as a spare number. Now, if I wanted to add more main numbers, like I'm growing into different regions, right? I can either add from spare numbers, right? So numbers I already have on my account, or I can buy new, right? And buy new really just means add a number. You're not instantly charged for them. You have local or toll-free to choose from. Toll-free, you just find the toll-free prefix you want to work with. Click on search. And then you have a list of numbers to choose from that will keep growing as you scroll down. You pick a number that you like, or multiple, if you want to add multiple toll-free numbers. You see I have one in my cart. The number here, I can choose to delete it if I see another number I like better. And then you simply click Buy Numbers. Now the system here is basically making sure that number was truly still available because it's a dynamic list. So someone could have stolen the number if you're not quick, or you're unlucky, I guess. But then once it does that, it then moves it to the account and activates it. It does take several minutes for this to actually go through. And this is taking a little longer than normal. There we go. And there's my new number. Now, local numbers are slightly different in that you need to know the area code you want to work with. Now, some area codes, like 310, they're exhausted, right? 310 was the original Los Angeles area code. LA has probably got like 5 to 7 area codes covering that area. So in this case, this means there's none currently available. If you have to have a phone number in a particular area code, you need to email our reporting team, and they can do what's called a back order. Now, that doesn't mean we are going to get one. It just means if one becomes available, we try to go get it, which means we don't have an ETA on when we'll be able to provide you with that 310 number in this case. What we normally recommend is find an overlay or nearby area code and do a search. All right, so 323 is one of those nearby area codes. I can just add a number here, for example, and buy it. All right, so yeah, the big metropolitan areas usually have several area codes to choose from. So it's not a bad idea to double check on those before you try a back order, because again, we're just waiting for someone to give up a phone number, so we have no idea when we'll be able to provide that to you. Now, these phone numbers, I'll have a little gear icon here. This is where you would say adjust the caller ID, right? So you can update the outbound CNAM for a particular phone number and turn on the ability for inbound CNAM to show up for calls coming into your staff members. E911, each phone number can have its own E911 information. This allows you then to select different phone numbers for your VoIP devices to use for E911. Right, so that way, if you have people in multiple locations, they can have the proper E911 information when they have to, if they have to dial 911. Hopefully they don't. Prepend, this is a VoIP feature. You can add additional text to show up in the caller ID of your VoIP phones. Right. So if I type in promo here, that means any call that comes in on this 323 phone number, right, goes to one of my staff members' VoIP phones. They'll see the word promo, and then the caller ID of the person who's calling in. That lets my staff number, oh, this is about the special promotion I'm running. So then they can adjust how they greet that customer over the phone, right, to have the intro about the promotion. And then likewise, again, if you don't want particular numbers, you can unassign them. But again, they're still on my account, so I can assign them elsewhere. Now, once you have main numbers, then you can go to office hours strategy. Excuse me. 24-hour open office just means you're open 24/7. If you choose custom office hours, then for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark here. And then in these boxes to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. At the very bottom, or towards the very bottom, you also have the option to be closed for lunch. And then you can choose your lunch hours. Also in that 24-hour or military time. And then any changes you make just below the lunch hours, click on Save Changes. Office holidays, if you're closed for holidays, you just put a check mark here. And then to the right, you have Add Holiday. You click there, you have the option for single day, date range, or advanced. Single day is like we have here for New Year's Eve. You give it a name, choose the month, the date, click Save Changes. Date range is like I have down here for Christmas break. Give it a name, start date, end date. Notice that there is no year indicator, which is partially why I have a New Year's Eve and a New Year's Day as single days, right? Just so I don't cause the system any confusion. Advanced is like this retreat option or even Thanksgiving, where I give it a name, I choose the month, and then 1st through 5th or last, and then the day of the week, right? So third Thursday in November, we're closed. And then any changes, you click on Save Changes. And then we have incoming call handling. Now, incoming call handling is for my main numbers, right? And then I have these sub-tabs here, right? Open hours, I have lunch hours, since I said I'm going to be closed for lunch. I have after hours, because I have my custom office hours. And then since I said I'm closed for holidays, I have a holidays tab. Now, these 4 options here are basically the same among those 4 sub-tabs, but it allows me to customize each one, right? So calls under my open hours, for instance, are coming to my virtual receptionist. This is a link here, so I can click on it. It's going to open up a new window, and now I'm setting up my virtual receptionist. On my left is, or on the left, is the main menu, right? This is what people can press on their phone to navigate through my phone system. You click on Add Route, and creates a new menu option. Now, you don't have, the pull down doesn't always work on the streaming software. You have 0 through 9, the star key, and the default action. And then you choose where are these things going, right? Smart PBX directory, right? Dial by name directory, user directory. Users, where you can send a menu option to a specific person. Call queues, if you're making use of Acd queues, you can send a menu option to there. Devices, that means you're sending calls to a specific phone, right? So if someone presses 1, you're sending it to a specific phone or device. Now, this only works if that, or this is only this isn't always recommended. You just want to make sure the device you're sending it to has its own built-in voicemail. Like not a VoIP phone, but like you can send it to a cell phone, right? Because it usually has voicemail built into it. We'll scroll down here. Media file, this will play a greeting file. Once the greeting file ends, the call ends. So that's something you might want to put as part of the greeting, that to let the customer know, hey, when the file is done playing, your call will be disconnected or ended. Next up, we have groups, right? These are departments. They're related to Acd Cues. Advanced call flows, this would be if you're making use of submenuing, right? 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. Then the submenus would have their own greetings and options. And then voicemail boxes, right? So you can press a menu option to leave a voicemail. Over here to the right, we have greetings and then your greeting options. So first up is text-to-speech. You type in a greeting. It will accept up to 250 characters, not words. I can sometimes get it to accept more, but on a consistent basis, 250 always has worked. This is good for if you're just starting out, right? Like you're not sure how your phone system's going to work yet. You're a startup business, maybe. You've never used a PBX system, what have you. So it's good for testing purposes and getting that initial setup because it's free. Now, downside of this is every time you make an edit to this text, you'd click update, save down here at the bottom, and then save changes. The system reuses the file name, right? So like this text-to-speech greeting, I'm in my open hours, right? Because I say I'm in my open hours up here at the top. So the text-to-speech greeting, the system will save it as main open hours menu TTS. That file name will be used repeatedly every time I make an edit here. So my suggestion to you is if you start off with the text-to-speech greeting, after you update and save changes, on the left, click on the Greetings tab, and then you can edit the file name to something you can recognize in case you need to flip back to it. Right, you can upload your own file, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Choose from anything that you've already uploaded to the account or added to the account. And you see here, I have a main open hours menu TTS file already selected. But this pull down you can choose from a hold music file or a voicemail greeting file. So that's why you want to have names that you can recognize easily. You can record it over the phone. Now let's take the settings down here back to default. Now, first and foremost, it says here to pick up a phone registered to this account. What that means really is pick up a VoIP phone on the account. Then you would dial the main number and enter the PIN number. If you want to use a cell phone or a landline to record your voicemail greeting, under settings, then you want to look for this one here, allow outside recording. You want to turn this on, click on save and save changes. Then you can use a cell phone or a landline to record your main greeting over your cell phone. Right, this PIN number, it's unique to this time of day. Right, so it will only work during my open hours. So if I call at 6 p.m., this PIN number here will no longer work. Right, so you can only change I can only change my open hours during my open hours. If you've just signed up with us, right, when you first call in, you're typically going to hear a message saying the greeting for this menu has not been set up. And then it will prompt you to record the PIN, to enter the PIN number, and then you walk you through recording a main greeting. If your account has been with us for a little while and you already have a greeting in place, right? So you can call in, you can hear that main greeting play, you can still enter in the PIN number, right? The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording a new main greeting. It's going to overwrite the file that is currently playing, right? So if you have your normal greeting that's currently playing and you wanted to record, say, a special promotional greeting, well, if you call in, enter the PIN number, right, system walks you through recording it, you've lost your normal main greeting, even though the file name will stay the same. So something to be aware of there. Professional recording services, when you click order, this will take you to actually open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have their own billing. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from, as well as different versions of English, French, and Spanish. So you order from them, they will send you the file, and then you would simply just upload your own file. All right, the settings. First up, we have number of retries on missed dial. This is basically saying how many times can the inbound caller make a mistake. Usually anywhere from 0 to 3 is what most customers tend to choose. Right. So in this case, I'm saying they get one mistake. Right. So caller comes in and let's say they press number 7, right? Not a valid menu option. And if I don't have anything with extension 7, that would count as a missed dial. The system would play the greeting again. Customers say they press 7 a second time for whatever reasons. And in that instance, they would go to my default action, right? Because they only get the one retry. So on that second attempt, they're like, oh, sorry, we're sending you to my default action. If I don't have a default action, let's say I click the little X here to remove that menu option. Now, on that second time after they press 7, the system will say, we did not recognize your entry, and say goodbye. All right, dialing timeout. This is how much time the system waits after it hears a button press before it assumes the inbound caller is done. Right, so that caller calls in, they press 7. The system waits to a count of 5, says, oh, that's a wrong entry, plays the main greeting again, right? They press 7 for the second entry, again, waits 5 seconds, then says, we didn't recognize your entry. We already covered allow outside recording. Allow dialing extensions, this by default is on. So this means if caller comes in and they enter an extension number, the system will recognize it and send it to the extension. Right? If you turn this off, now you're saying they can only press these menu options. Right? If they enter an extension number, the system will say invalid entry. And then here we have the suppress playing of invalid entry. If you don't want that invalid entry message to be played back to your customers, you can just click on this, and now they won't hear it. So any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or these settings, you need to click Save here. You need to click Save Changes back here on Incoming Call Handling. All right. Here, I just switched it to lunch hours just to make it a cleaner transition. But call comes in, it's offered to my front desk ring group, and then goes to my virtual receptionist. Right, this is a pull down. This is your live operator answer option, right? So you can send it to a specific person, right? You can send it to a specific phone, right? Specific device. You can also send it to a media file. I don't recommend it just because that means you're having 2 media files play back to back, right? 2 greetings, and that can throw off your customer, or it can throw you off if you forgot that's your settings. Right, groups, again, that's like a group of people, right, a department. So like my front desk group would be like my receptionist group. You can send it to advanced call flow, one of your secondary attendants. But then if you click on the virtual receptionist, you would have menu options here, greetings, etc. Now, if we go back to my open hours and I select this option, right, this option here is the menu we were just looking at for the open hours. Right, lunch hours would be different because let's say I only want these people to possibly answer, and if they're not available, right, go to my virtual receptionist. After hours, again, I could have it go here, or I can choose this option. And actually, but again, the virtual receptionist would have its own settings for after hours. Holidays, again, this has a pull down, right? So users, devices, call queues, groups, media file, right? It just has the extra one here of skip to voicemail, and then you can choose which voicemail box it goes to. This I normally see for like seasonal businesses, or like a small business where the 1 or 2 people who are running it decide, hey, we deserve vacation, so send calls to voicemail. And this last option is sending calls to a secondary attendant, which would only apply if your account includes multiple auto attendants. which is a plan-specific feature. But again, any changes you would want to make sure you click on Save Changes. Next up, we have the main conference number. Again, you can add from spare numbers or buy new ones, so you can have multiple conference numbers. Then you have a custom greeting. This is just a text-to-speech greeting, right? This is where you would say, thank you for calling ABC Cleaners conference room. Right? Even without this, the system says, welcome to the conference, enter the conference room number, and then the PIN number. Main fax box, you can only have the one fax box number. Once you've added a fax box number, you can click on Edit Fax Box. Excuse me. First is inbound notification email. You just want to put an email address there. And then whenever a fax comes into the system, this email address gets a notification saying, hey, a fax has come through, as well as a PDF attachment. Right? They can just double click on it and look on there. Now, if someone dials your fax box number, right, here's fax tones and then hangs up, this email address is going to get a notification for a failed inbound fax attempt. Email permissions, this is where you would put your company domain, for example, and that's saying who can send a fax out. Now, you can put a specific email address here if you want to as well. That means that one email address can send faxes. But if you put your company domain here, then anyone at your company who has an email address, right? So in this case, at virtualpbx.com, they can send faxes out on this account without being a user on the Dash account. They just need that proper format of the +1 area code and phone number at symbol account realm. All right, auto attendance. All right, this is for accounts that have multiple auto attendants, so it's a plan-specific feature. You have a couple of use cases. The first I've mentioned already is submenuing, right? One for English, two for Spanish. You would then make an English and Spanish attendant over here, right? So you would click on Add Attendant, give it, say, English, and an extension number, click on Create Attendant. Now, the extension number is basically only used for your internal staff members, right? Your customers aren't probably going to know it. Once you've created an attendant, you can click on its name, and you have the choice. Is it going to be available in your main menu, meaning it's a submenu option, or are you going to make it unavailable? If it's unavailable in the main menu, it's a standalone attendant. Right? That use case could be for, say, you own multiple businesses, right? So they have their own numbers, they own greetings, and you have the same staff members answer calls for your multiple businesses. As this implies, your attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? You can either add for spare or buy new numbers. They can have multiple extensions if you want them to, right? You can add an extension number here. If you want to swap out extension numbers, I usually recommend adding the new extension first, click on Save Changes, and then unassign the original extension, then Save Changes. Then you have the little wrench icon here under Settings. I have open hours, lunch hours, after hours, holidays, right? This will match the information we already set up under main number, right? So all your businesses, if they're separate entities, right, would have to have the same hours of operation. But these are all going to the virtual receptionist, so you would need to set up a main menu, a greetings, and adjust your settings, just like we were looking at under the virtual receptionist. Devices. This shows all your devices on the account. A green device means it is registered, so we can send calls to it. Red means unregistered, and black means you've turned it off. You can add devices up here at the top. First up is SIP phone, right? This is that physical VoIP phone sits on a desk. You can choose from these manufacturers. I'm not sure why there's an extra square there. I don't think it, looks like we're getting ready to add another manufacturer. Now, some manufacturers have many models to choose from, some not as many. But no matter what, you want to find the manufacturer and model you want to work with, and you give it a name, right? So you can say, Andy's phone, right? And then the MAC address. This is unique to each phone, usually a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in under like the basic settings or status, right, there's usually a heading for MAC, and that's the information you want to enter here. You would then click on Create Device, and then under Users, assign the device to a specific person. Now, within the dashboard, you're done at that point. However, you're not done with the phone. You need to go into the phone's web user interface, right? Get the IP address, put that in the browser's address bar, log into the phone's UI, and you need to enter in a URL. Basically, you're telling the phone, hey, go here to get your config file. It does so. It's going to reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device. Now, for the specifics of these various manufacturers, you want to go to our support pages, and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. Right? Each of these manufacturers has a slightly different syntax for that URL, and we have screenshots of where to look, where you're going to go. There's also some settings that we want verified. Right? You might want to make sure they're set the right way. Again, that's Auto Provisioning Phones on the support pages. Cell phone and landline are the same in that you just give it a name and then you enter in +1 area code and phone number. Click on Create Device. All right, so here's a cell phone that's already added, and this is the default configuration. So call comes into the system, it's going out, ends up going out to a cell phone, right? That cell phone rings, you pick up. When you pick up, you're going to hear a message say, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there, and yes, you want to take the call, right? So it hears that 1. It then connects that inbound call to you so you can speak to the other person, your customer. That works fine if you're taking calls on your cell phone. If you set up a cell phone, for instance, but you're actually sending calls to, say, an automated answering service, say for your after hours, the automated answering service, right, doesn't know when to press 1 because most of them aren't designed to do that. So in that case, what you want to do is right here where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, you want to put a check mark here and then click on Save Changes. So now what happens is when we send a call out to this phone number, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right? We're not waiting for that 1 tone to come back to us, which for your automated answering service works fine. If this was actually going to a person's cell phone, what can happen is, right, we send the call to the device, and let's say the cell phone voicemail picks up. Well, that's still a pickup tone, so we connect the call. So that inbound caller ends up on, say, your personal cell phone's voicemail. Some people really want that. Some people really don't. That's a personal preference at that point. The other thing that sometimes comes up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So for instance, customer Mary is calling into your system, gets out to your cell phone. On your phone, you see customer Mary's phone number. You don't recognize it, and you're tired of all the robodialers that you're getting about extending your car's auto warranty. So you let the call go to voicemail, and then hopefully you're able to reconnect with customer Mary later and still be able to help her or complete the sale. If you come to your device here and right under advanced, you uncheck keep original caller ID. So now what shows up on your phone is not customer Mary's phone number, but your main company number. We'll go back here to the dashboard. This 408 phone number would show up on my cell phone. So now I know, hopefully I would recognize my company phone number. So I'm like, oh, this is a business call. That's worth me taking. Now, soft phone, there's a warning message here, wireless VoIP technology and E911. So I do encourage that you read this at least once. But here it defaults to you using a third-party soft phone, right? So some other soft phone application other than the one from VirtualPBX. You give it a name. You want to copy the SIP username. You want to click on the SIP password box. You want to copy and paste that. And then you want to copy and paste your account realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you need to program that third-party soft phone application. Right, you click on create device, you assign it to a device, and then you provision that soft phone. We do have some instructions for some, or we have instructions for some soft phones other than ours, just not a lot. Right, the greetings manager, this shows all your media files that you've uploaded or added to your account. Right, name, obviously the name of the file. Source, TTS means text to speech. Upload means you uploaded the file. And recording means you recorded it over the phone. You can download these files to listen to them to see if they're still relevant to your needs. And then little wrench icon here, you can change the name, right? So for that, like the main open hours menu, TTS text to speech greetings, you can change it to something you'll recognize, as well as delete a greeting that no longer makes sense or you no longer want. Groups, sometimes referred to as ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, you click Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number, and then you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in that group. Once you have everyone, you click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name, and you can change the name at any time. And then you have the group call attempts. You have little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease it. Right, this is how many times the system will offer that inbound call to your staff members that are in this group. And then you click on Save Changes. Next up, we have the members box. This shows my members in the group. Right, this is the ring order. Right, so it starts with Peter, ends with David. Along the top here, these are timestamps, and you can edit this last one. It defaults to 120 seconds. But I can change it to 60, for example. Now, that's not exactly an equal distribution, so I can click on Distribute, and now it equalizes the time offered among my staff members. If I don't like this order, let's say Peter, for instance, has a special project I need him to work on, right? I can click on his name and drag him down to the bottom. Now, the ring order hasn't changed yet, right? But if I click Distribute, now he's last in order. So hopefully one of these other coworkers can pick up the call before it gets to Peter so he can concentrate on his project. Now, these are sliders, so I can adjust how I see fit, right? I can do things like that, right? Or I can have, whoops. I'm going to set up what's referred to as blast ringing or ring all. Here, right? So now calls offered to everyone for the full time until someone picks up. Some things to know about groups is that if my staff members have multiple devices, right, and a call from the group is offered to them, all of their devices will ring. Right? It will supersede any user settings. Right? There's a user feature called Follow Me, right, where you can set the order of what devices will ring. A call from the group will ignore the Follow Me settings of the user. It's just going to ring them all at once. In groups, you can take calls from cell phones or landlines as well as VoIP phones. Compare that to Acd Cues. Currently, you can only take calls from a VoIP device and an Acd Cue. Now, once a member is added to a group, right, they're in the group. They can't change their status in relation to that group. Right? So they can't log themselves out, mark themselves away. The most they can do is if they have the D&D toggle, they can turn on D&D, and then they won't get any calls offered to them. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Right, groups can have an extension number, right? You can have multiple if you want them to. They can also have their own phone numbers like these have here. Now, one thing to know is that these phone numbers do not follow your hours of operation, right? Because the hours of operation only applies to your main numbers. right? So that means these phone numbers, these work 24/7. Groups can have features, or they do have features, I should say. First up is ringback, right? If you turn this on, this allows you to put in a media file to play back instead of that ringing sound, right? Call comes into the group. The inbound caller just hears that ring sound, which is actually being piped back from the devices that we're offering it to among your staff members, right? So call comes in, signal goes out to, say, Peter in that ring group. His phone rings, right? So that sound gets transmitted back to the inbound caller. If you don't want that sound that's being transmitted back to actually go to your caller, but you want a media file to play, let's say, a special promotion file, or you just want music to play, right? You would upload .ogg, .mp3, .wav, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, click on Save Changes. One thing to keep in mind, if for some reason we don't get that ringing sound back from the device, right, on your staff member, then nothing plays, right? Because the media file you're putting here replaces that ringback sound that we're getting back from the device we're offering it to. Usually not a problem if you're offering it to multiple people. Next action. So if you enable this, you're saying, okay, if no one picks up, what do you want the call to, where do you want the system to send the call? You can send it back to your virtual receptionist. You can send it to one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a call queue if you have them, a specific phone, a specific user, another group, and over a voicemail box. And then click on Save Changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, you're saying your users can make use of call forwarding, right? So if they're not at their normal desk phone, they can use that phone to say forward calls to a cell phone. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You can add text or numbers. And this will show up on your VoIP phone's displays, right? When you click on Save Changes. So now when a call comes into this group, my staff member here, right, J test test, on his VoIP phone, it'll say test. So he knows, oh, it's a test, it's from the test group. He can change his greeting, right? You can say hello versus a greeting that you would have, say, for my front desk team, right? They would want to be a little bit more formal if it's not a test call. All right, numbers. Shows numbers on your account. We start off in numbers in use, so that way you can see where they go. You can notice I have the little gear icon here, so you can adjust the caller ID, E911, and prepend. Spare numbers, numbers you're not using. Now, if you want to remove a number from your account, right, to reduce your bill, click on the box in front. Now I have the option to delete. And it says, now I've removed the numbers, right? So I've reduced my phone bill by a little bit. By numbers, right? Local and spare, just like we saw earlier. Again, you do a search for, right? This just puts them as a spare number so you can use them later, right? So you would add from spare under groups, for instance. Port starts the porting process, right? You give it a name, local or toll-free. Then it wants you to upload a copy of your phone bill and then confirm that's within 30 days. Then it's going to ask you for the address associated, the phone numbers you want to port. You'll be able to download a blank letter of agency or LOA, as well as then upload a completed and signed LOA, and then submit the documents. Now, for the LOA, right, it's going to have things for like your company name and your address. That should match what your current carrier has on file for you. So like if you're porting a number from Comcast or Xfinity to VirtualPBX, right, whatever they have on file for you, that's what you would fill out on the LOA. It does need to be signed. Now that can be a digital signature, or you can, print it out, sign it, and scan it back in. Either way. But if you just type your name in twice, that is going to get rejected. Generally speaking, porting for like toll-free numbers, usually in the 3 to 5 business day range, assuming everything is correct. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes it's faster. It just depends on the carriers involved. If we do get a rejection, it's not just saying it's rejected, right? We get a little bit of information like address mismatch or authorized user mismatch. They're not going to tell us like, oh, you got the street number wrong. Right? They don't get to that level of detail. We pass that on to you, whatever information we have, saying, hey, we got a bad address, right? And that's something then you would have to check with the correct carrier on what the correct address should be. All right, users, right? Shows all your users on the account. Gray person, your standard user. Blue suit is a system admin. When you click on add user, you enter first name, last name, right? Pretty easy to do. The email address used for login, this has to be unique for each user, right? So you can't reuse, say, support@virtualpbx.com, right? I couldn't use that for 5 different people. The system will say that won't work. You then create a password for them, and then you enter an extension number. Now, the system's going to suggest an extension number to you. Like if you start off with extension 500 or 5000, right? It will say, and then you add someone else, it will put 5001 here, right? But you don't have to listen to that. You can type in a different extension number if you want to. Create a voicemail box for the user. This voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user. So for instance, you create the user and then you add, like say, a Yealink phone to that user. It provisions. They can then pick up, that user can then pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98 right on the VoIP phone, hit send. That will log them into their voicemail box that you just created for them. It will prompt them to enter in a PIN number, right? So that way they create their own PIN number and then walk them through recording their voicemail reading. Include in the user directory, you can put a check mark here. You can always update this later. Send 2 emails to an alternate address. So by default, the system will send any emails to the email address used for login, right? So voicemails, right, would automatically by default go to this email address used for login. If you don't want the system to send those emails to the email address used for login, then you would use send to an alternate address, check the box here, and then put in that different email address here. And then, I think this is important, send credentials to the user, so that way they know how to log in. If you just create one person, create user. If you need to add multiple, create user and add another. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. You can change the name. You can click on change credentials, so you can change their email address and their password. You can also send them the password reset email right here. If you make changes, click on save changes and then save changes here. Change PIN number. This would be a temporary PIN number for their voicemail box. Click on save changes. If they're only a cell phone or landline user, you'd want to do this for each of those users. Here's your option to send to an alternate address again. And here's the option to be in the user directory or not. This pull down allows you to change a user to an admin or an admin to a user. Here we've got the time zone, right? Just type in the major city or region. Here's the display language, right? So how the web pages display. You have English, French, German, or Russian. Excuse me. The ringing timeout, let me go to here, Cody. This will default to 20 seconds, right? Now that's plenty of time for calls to go to a landline or a VoIP phone. If this person was only using a cell phone, you'd want to increase this to at least 30 seconds. I usually recommend like 40, 45. Basically, how PBX systems work, right? Call comes into the PBX system, and then we send calls out to the devices on a user. So when we send calls out to a landline, goes to this landline telecom, they go, oh, it goes right here, right? Because they know exactly where that phone is. Whereas when we send calls out to a cell phone provider, they say, hold on a second, we need to find them first, right? Ping cell phone towers, finds you, then they say, all right, found them, sends the call through. That delay, right, time to find you, is why you would need to have a longer ringing timeout for a cell phone user than you would for a landline user or a VoIP phone user. Now, if we go back up to Aaron here, all right, his ringing timeout is grayed out, and that is because he has a user feature enabled called follow me calling, meaning he's got multiple devices that he wants that are ringing in a particular sequence. All right, users can have extensions. They can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Users can also have their own phone numbers. Just like in groups, this phone number works 24/7, right? Because it's not a main number, so it doesn't follow those hours of operation. Here you got devices for the users. Let me delete this one real quick. All right. So on the devices box, you can add from spare devices, right? So devices you've already added to the system, or you can click on new device. You have the same options here. So I can add the physical VoIP phone, right, directly to my users if I'm so inclined, and that's what I normally recommend. The main thing I want to show here is soft phone, right? You still get that warning message every time. When you click close, now you see I have an extra option. So on the devices page, right, you can only add a third-party soft phone. On the users page, when you click on new device and select soft phone, you have this option here at the bottom. It says use third-party application, right? That's what it defaults to. I can click on that, right? Moves a little toggle to the right. Now it says use VirtualPBX application. So then I just need to give it a name. I can click on create device, and then I click on save changes. And now when it finishes saving changes, Aaron's going to get an email, right? Because I just added a VirtualPBX soft phone to his user. So he gets an email saying, hey, your VirtualPBX soft phone is ready. It's going to have his username, which is different than his Dash login information, as well as a password, which again, different than what he uses to log into Dash, and download links, right? So they can download the app to, say, his iPhone, log in, and then use that app to make and receive calls. Likewise, on a user, actually here, let's go down here to Dawn, right? You could add a web phone. I recommend adding the web phone to a user directly because the web phone, it has its own login. Well, it has a login requirement, I should say, but it uses your Dash login information. So whatever you use to log into dash.virtualpbx.com, that's what you would use to log into at webphone.virtualpbx.net, right? Same email address, same password, same account realm. All right, user features. Caller ID number, this is only available to users that have their own phone number, but it allows you to say, hey, instead of using the company default phone number as my caller ID, I want to use my own number that I already have on my user. Call forwarding, your users can set up call forwarding on their own. They don't need you to do it for them. And they would do so either on the VoIP phone itself using feature codes, or, which I find easier, is via the user portal. However, failover mode is something you would have to set up as an admin. And this is if their VoIP phone loses registration and a call is offered to that user, the system will automatically forward the call to their cell phone, for example. Right, so you choose desk phone or mobile, put +1 area code and phone number, click on save changes. Right, similar for when it's on, right? Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. You need to create a hot desk ID. I usually say, if you use 4-digit extensions, just make it the user's extension number, and because they'll be able to remember that. Then click on Save Changes. This is for basically using a shared office environment where your staff members may sit at different desks from day to day, right? So, for instance, it's Tuesday, and Aaron comes in and he sits at desk number 3. It's the one that first one was open, right? He picks up the VoIP phone, he hits *11. That turns the hot desking on that phone. It'll ask him for his hot desk ID. If the admin set up a PIN number, then it would ask him for the PIN number. And then it will tell him calls will now be sent to this device. So the rest of his workday, right, calls will be sent to the desk that Aaron is sitting at. The end of his workday, he picks up the phone, hits *12 to turn off hot desking, he goes home. The next time he comes in the office, right, say that's Thursday or Friday, whatever. He comes in, someone's already sitting at desk number 3, he goes, whatever, walks down a couple more rows, and he sits down at desk number 12. Same process, right? Picks up *11, hot desk ID, now calls are coming to him. Voicemail box, right? This was created when the user was created at the same time. This is your default settings. Now, transcription is when the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out in your notification email to the best of its ability. That is actually a plan-specific feature, right? On some plans and not others. So you might want to double check with our account services team to see if that's on your plan or if you need to change plans to get that. Voicemail or email, that just means we are sending an email out to the user when they get a voicemail. And here is we're attaching that as an MP3. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 voicemail messages. After that, the mailbox is full and cannot accept any more. So you can choose this option up here, right? Delete the messages from the database after the notification is sent. Once you do that, that means your users can only get their voicemails from their email. They're not going to be able to call in to listen to voicemails. They're not going to be able to go to their user portal to see their voicemails because they're automatically deleted as soon as that email is sent out. Fax Box, users can have their own fax boxes if you want them to. Now, in general, when in setting this up, I recommend using a phone number, right? Select the spare number, buy a new number. This one is set up as an extension. This has limitations. The first limitation is that this person, Aaron, he can only receive faxes. He's not going to be able to send out. And that is because when he creates the email to send out, right, the system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachments. Well, from the from field, the system will detect, oh, he has his own fax box. I'm going to use the settings for his personal fax box to send out. Meaning, oh, he has an extension number. That's the only information it uses for the caller ID. Right? Well, to send a fax out, it's still technically a kind of telephone call. So it has to have full caller ID to actually go through. So with only 399 sent out as the caller ID, the fax will fail. Right? If instead I had a phone number, right, it would use his phone number, his fax box phone number as the caller ID, and then it would go through properly. The conference bridge, right? First, you have to have a conference room number. Then you can enable conferencing on any user. And then as that admin, the only other thing you need to do is set up a conference room PIN and then click on Save Changes. The conference room PIN can be changed by your users on the user portal. Follow me. Right, this is where you tell the system to ring which devices in which order. Along the top, you have timestamps, right, up to 120. Now, by default, right, it starts off looking like this. Oops. Maybe. Hold on here. Right, it starts off with do not ring on both devices. Basically, the system wants you to tell it which devices do you want to ring. So then you uncheck the boxes. These are sliders, right? So I can do something like that. I have this timestamp up here, so I can always click distribute, right? And just like in the ring groups, right? I can change the order however I see fit. Click redistribute, so it goes in the order I want. And then click on Save Changes. Music on hold, you can choose to allow to have your users have their own individual hold music if you want to. So like your sales staff could have hold music that, you know, talks about promotions, whereas like your billing staff could have hold music that has a message, you know, talking about, you know, the like the normal billing dates, or, you know, when overage would become from a late payment, that sort of thing. Customize call recording. You can choose to have calls recorded. When you first enable it, it looks like this, because the system wants you to tell it what kind of calls you want recorded, right? Inbound internal, right? So that's a coworker call, right? So coworker Bob called me, right? Inbound external means customer Mary called me. Outbound internal, I called coworker Bob. Outbound external, I called customer Mary. And then you click on Save Changes for whatever ones you want enabled. Now, every account includes at least some amount of storage. It's going to vary depending on the plan you're on. And then there's an overage once you exceed that amount. For specifics, you want to talk to our account services team, and they can let you know what your storage amount is and what the overage charge is if should you go over. One thing to know is if you have an Amazon Web Services account, right, AWS, you can link that to your Dash account. There's no charge for that. And so then you can have your call recordings shifted to AWS, which is typically cheaper than us, from what I understand. And then as an admin, you can put a user on Do Not Disturb if you want them to, or if you need them to be, right? It's like they're, you know, Aaron had to leave for the rest of the day for an emergency. You can just put Do Not Disturb so he doesn't get any calls. Voicemail boxes shows all your voicemail boxes on the account. Most of them will probably have a username associated with them, right? Because they're a user-created voicemail box. Some, like the main voicemail box, the system creates automatically. Others you could create because of your ring groups or your queues. To do so, you click Add Voicemail Box up here at the top. You give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. You click on Create Voicemail Box. You can click wrench icon next to any voicemail box after they're created, so you can view that information and change it if necessary. Under Advanced, first up is Greeting Media. So here, for your user created voicemail boxes, they should probably create their own voicemail greetings, right? For, let's say we go to the main voicemail box up here. You might need to, for a manually created voicemail box, you can either upload a file or use the basic settings to call in and record it over the phone, or upload, right? Or select a file that's already on the system. So the media file is the default, right? That's what normally plays. Temporary, this would be for out of office or vacation voicemail greetings. So if you have something selected in temporary other than none, it will play, right? Once you put it back to none, the media file will play. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes already have one built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. For any voicemail box you create at the top of the page, on the voicemail page, you want to click here to add new recipient and then add an email address. And if you click add again, right, you'll add a second email address. Otherwise, you would click on Save Changes. For your user voicemail boxes, right, you can add additional recipients, right? This would be on top of the email address used for login. So like a manager for a department, maybe he wants a copy of all the voicemails. So once you have a recipient and a greeting media in place, then you can click on here to say already set up. You got the option here to delete after notification, right? Because by default, attach messages to email is enabled. Advanced routing. This is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. What this does, or what DISA does, is allows you to call in from a cell phone or landline. Right? You can log in over the phone and then make an outbound call from your cell phone, and it will not show up as, or the outbound caller ID will not show up as your cell phone number. It will instead show up back on our dashboard here, right, as the company caller ID phone number. Now, by default for new accounts, this feature is not enabled. So if this is something you want, you need to contact our account services team, and they can go about getting that enabled for you. And part of that is because this is if people can figure out the process of calling in over the cell phone, they can make outbound calls on your account, and you may not know about it right away. Once it's enabled on the account, all right, you would then click Enable. And then I recommend click Edit Settings. Click on Add Extension, and then give it an extension number that's outside of your normal range, right? So on this account, we started off with extension 1000, so that's the default next extension number. So for DISA, I would want to choose something different, so that way people can't guess what that extension might be, right? If they've already called in and spoken to staff members. So now the process here is I call my main number, right? That goes to my virtual receptionist. When I hear the main greeting, I enter in the extension number. Then the system will prompt me for the PIN number. Then I'll hear dial tone again. Then I enter area code and phone number of where I want to reach. Right, so if these bad actor type people, right, are able to figure out these two pieces of information, they can then make calls out on your account, and you may not realize it. Now, one way to possibly know about what's going on ahead of time is via the call logs. Because via the call logs, you can see your call history. So we can say today, right, this user, Mike, he made an outbound call, but I can see it came from his VoIP phone. Right, so I don't have to worry about it. I can go further back to this month, and I can see other calls that have come in and out. So green is an inbound call, or green arrow to the right, and you can see what device it went to, and that call, the user was busy. Right, the yellow arrow to the left is outbound. Right, and you can click on these to get some further details. And usually it's to see like what device it went to and what happened. Normally, you want to see normal clearing. That means as far as the system is concerned, the call ended normally, right? It heard the proper tones to end a call. Now, next to these phones, you have this little fire hydrant icon. This will create an email that goes to support@virtualpbx.com and includes the technical details of the call. I suggest that you also type in the body of that email what was happening or what didn't happen, so we know the context of what's going on. Because all we would see that, oh, it's a normal clearing call, so why was this reported? So like if you had bad audio quality or no audio, or like your phone did not actually ring even though the system says it tried to ring your device, right? That would give us an indication of what's going on and what to look for. Now, up here, you can download this file. It downloads it as a CSV file, so you can use it in a spreadsheet program. Under Custom, you can set the date range you want to look up calls for. You can go back up to 1 year. And then our engineering team can go back up to 18 months. After that, the call data is lost. So if you need the call data for compliance purposes, I would recommend that you do this every month. If you have heavy call volume, you might have to do your custom searches by week. All right, something after about like 300 to 500 record range, the system takes a long time to start displaying the call logs. All right, next up we have feature codes. I've already mentioned the hot desking ones and in passing the call forwarding ones, but these are essentially shortcuts from a VoIP phone your staff members can use to access different features of Dash. This one here is *97. You can actually do from a cell phone, right? You can call into your main number, hit *97, and then you can enter in the voicemail box number and then the PIN number if you know it to get to messages. This information is on our website as well, so you don't have to log in to see it. Under the support pages, there's also a document called the Phone Commands Cheat Sheet, which will also show you what these are and a brief explanation of each one. All right, next up is Blacklists, because we've just been in the dashboard. Blacklists allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. You would click on Edit Blacklists here. If you don't have a list, you would just click on Add. You give it a name, and then first up, do you want to block anonymous calls or not? Right? That means if we don't get caller ID, right, the phone number, if you turn this on, that means you're blocking calls from them. Right? If you leave it off, that means you're allowing those calls to get through. Other than that, down here, you click on Add Number. You put +1 area code and phone number, no spaces, no parentheses, no dashes. And then you would click Add to keep adding phone numbers. Once you're done, you would click on Save. Now, once you click on Save, you click on Back to Settings. And make sure your list is over here to the right under Selected. And then click Update. And now every phone number, or even anonymous calls, if you've selected that to the right, that are on this list, when they try to call any of your phone numbers, they get a busy signal, right? They're not getting through. Faxes, or the fax manager. Click on it properly here. So this, you can look at your fax history, right? See when a fax came in, the date, the time, what phone number it came from, the phone number it went to, the pages. You can download it, as well as click on technical details if you need to. Outbound faxes, again, you would select the fax box. Right, hopefully you're seeing successes. Right, now if you see a failure, you can click on the details here. Right, you see the status has failed, which is what you would expect. Sometimes you get additional information down here towards the bottom, which is no user response, meaning the number that we dialed never picked up, right? For whatever reasons. Maybe it was a typo in the phone number. We don't know. Now, anything under the outbound faxes, the failures, that means we had an issue with communicating with the other fax machine. All right. Now, if we go to email to fax logs, anything that shows up here, this is where the system had a problem processing the request. Right? There could have been a problem with a document, a problem with the email format, right? The to field, or from who it came from. Got a little thumbs down icon, got a little eyeball icon here to the right under details. And you see here, no valid attachment. That just means that either the person faxing didn't include an attachment at all, or they, and in this case, that's probably what it is, because if it's the wrong kind of attachment, it will give further details, giving you the file type. So like a .docx, right? Not a supported format, it would say so. Number manager. This is basically our spare numbers page. So you can come back here and buy numbers, etc. Reports goes to advanced reporting. This is a plan-specific feature. Excuse me. It allows you to create your own reports. Now, if you go on our YouTube channel under videos, there is an advanced reporting demo that I would recommend you take a look at to give you a better idea of what the advanced reporting is and what it can do. Then we have the voicemail manager. You can get to the various voicemail boxes on your account. Right, now here, this user doesn't have delete after notification. And as an admin, I can even look at deleted messages, download them, and play them back. Right, playback, download. You can see details here, although normally, mostly what you need to know is, what phone number it came in on and what number it came to. Now, as an admin, if you click on the box in front of a voicemail, right, you can change its status, or this changes what you're sorting by. Excuse me. Here you can change its status, and then here you can move it to a different voicemail box. Up here, Acd Cues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. You need to have the correct plan, and then it's an add-on to the plan. Right, so you definitely want to double check with account services about this. We also have Acd Cues Pro. What we're seeing here are the standard Acd Cues. We do have a demo on our YouTube channel for Acd Cues Pro, so I'd advise you take a look at that if you're interested in cues at all. So queues are similar to groups in that it allows multiple staff members to answer calls about a similar topic. However, queues their major restriction is your staff members can only answer calls from a VoIP phone. Unlike on groups where they can take calls from cell phones or landlines. But your staff members can also control their status. Right, so like up here, I'm ready. I can mark myself away, like I went to lunch, right? Or I can end my day and log out so I don't take calls at all. Now, when you click on Add New Queue, right, that's how you create a queue. I'm just going to click on the gear icon for an existing queue. First up, you give it a name, and then you choose either a phone number or an extension number for a queue. It can have one or the other, not both. Then you have a queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull down doesn't work, but round robin, this will equalize out over time for my staff members. Standard queues also have ring all, meaning it rings everybody at once. Pro queues do not have that. There is most idle, so whoever's been waiting for a call the longest gets the next call. Least calls, meaning the least amount of connected calls, right? So least amount, that would be calls that my agent spoke to somebody, right? Because then there's also least offered, meaning the combination of completed and missed calls. Hold treatment, you can upload a media file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg. The pro queues have more options, so you can have different media files play, right, in sequence, and you can have things like announce their position in line or announce their expected wait time. Queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time inbound callers can wait on hold. The queue call limit, this is how many people can wait on hold. This is on top of people who are already speaking to staff members. Right, so if I have 2 connected calls in my queue, 4 more people can wait on hold. And if you set this to 0, there's no limit. Timeout immediately if empty. If this is enabled, that means if a call comes into your queue and none of your staff members are logged in, the system will treat that inbound caller as if they hit this 3,600 seconds. All right, then you have the escalation call flow after timeout. So after that 3,600 seconds has been hit by a person waiting on hold, where do you want to send the caller? You can send it to none, which means the call just simply ends, right? You can send it to staff members. You can send it to secondary attendants. You can send it to ring groups. You should be able to send it to voicemails. Etc. And then the zero out call flow, if you have this set to something, that means you're allowing your inbound callers to press 0. And so when you do that, again, where are you sending them? If you set it to none, that means they can't press 0. Agent behavior, sure. We have agent recovery time, usually measured in seconds. We usually see 0 to 30. This is after an agent has finished a queue call. How much time will the system wait before it offers them their next call from this queue? Right. So basically, you're giving your staff members time to get a sip of water, finish their notes, etc. Force away on reject or missed. If this is enabled, what you're saying is if your staff member misses a call, the system will automatically put them in away mode and will stay that way until the user marks themselves as ready again. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. Default is 20 because queues only allow calls to, can only use VoIP devices to answer calls. So 20 seconds is typically plenty. Then any changes, you would click on Save Changes, or if you're just creating it, create queue. Once you have queues created, over here on the left, you click on the little members icon, right? The person with the headset. This list is the list of staff members that can be in a queue. If I click on Manage Members, now that list is on the right. These are my other staff members. So these people haven't been assigned to a queue yet. And they can't even log into queues. All right, now if I click on their name and then click Add as a member, this MJ test user, right, can now enter my queues. So once I have staff members moved over under the call center members, I can go back to the queues here. If I click on a queue, right, I can click on agents. And so I can add a user into this queue. And then once you have staff members assigned or agents assigned to a queue, you can click on managers and choose which ones of those you want to be the managers of that queue. For your staff members, when they first log in, right? So they would click up, mouse over here, then click on Acd Cues. So here, let me end my session here. Right. I would click on Begin Session. I'm logged in, but I'm still marked away. Now that first time logging in, I should click on this little phone icon and make sure I select my VoIP device that I want to use. Then click on the phone icon again, and then I mark myself as ready, right? I turn from red to green. That means now I'm ready to take calls that come into this queue. Now, if my little bar turns blue, that means I'm on an inbound queue call. If it turns yellow, that means I'm on an external call, meaning someone called my extension directly or I'm on an outbound call. And if it turns gold, that means I'm on a wrap-up time. Right? Again, once I go to lunch, I would mark myself away. And then end of my day, I would click End Session. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So first up here, right, I gave it a name of 408. I'm telling the system to change the caller ID to this 408 phone number. And what I'm saying is the use caller ID when use the caller ID number I've selected when the VoIP phone users enters this area code. And then save changes. So anytime my VoIP phone users dial a 408 area code, the system automatically changes their outbound caller ID to this 408 number. All right, now this other one here, this is a feature code. So my staff members would have to dial *550, then the area code and phone number. And then when they do so, the system will automatically change their caller ID to this 323 phone number. All right, and then save changes. So the area code base one is easier, right? Staff members just need to dial phone numbers. They don't have to do anything, right? This one would be if they had to change it much more often. Monitor is also a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your users. right? Doesn't matter what VoIP phone they're using. Right, here's my employee look. I can look at what devices they're on. I can see who's available or who's busy. Up here, I can see on the left, the first section is the number of inbound active calls and who they're speaking to. And then the parked calls, if there's a parked call, there'll be a parking spot number here as well. The recording manager is included. This goes to, it would open up a new tab to recordings.virtualpbx.com, which uses your dash login. So then you could view your call recordings, download them or delete them. If you have your account linked to AWS, it would actually show your AWS interface. I believe it, well, at least it will show you right from this link, call recordings from AWS. I'm gonna skip down here to webhooks real quick. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to link Dash to other software. You actually want to talk to our sales team because they have more information on the webhooks. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see samples of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. Additionally, we have on our YouTube channel a webinar of an introduction to Zapier, which would use webhooks to link Dash to Zapier, which we would then link to other software. And then the user portal. User portal is an included feature. Every user has their own individual user portal, right? So as an admin, you're not able to get to anyone else's user portal, but that's because you can get to everything. Now, under this voicemail box, right? So under the admin voicemail boxes, right? This one here. We were looking at this voicemail box earlier, and you, as an admin, you could still see the deleted messages. But as a user, I can only see the messages that are just listened to, right? That I haven't marked for deletion yet. I can play them back. I can download them. If I put a check mark next to one, I can also then mark it as, make it a new message so I know to listen to it again, leave it as mark it listened, or mark it for deletion. So that way it will be removed. Call history. I could see my own call history about inbound and outbound. I can change these dates if I need to take a different date range. If I had my own fax box, I would have some details here in the fax manager. The contact list, this is your Dash contact list, right? So so your staff members can view the different feature codes, for example. They can see their ring groups, other users, etc. The users cannot add to this, right? This is just what's on the system. Conference tab. Over here on the right, this is where your staff members can update their moderator PIN as well as their participant PIN number. They can choose to have people come in muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. When they're in a conference, right, the little plus sign here, you can invite other Dash users to your conference. You can lock the conference, mute everybody, unmute everybody, and end the call, right? Hangs up the conference. Also, when you're in a conference the participants, right, will each have a box. You can mute a specific person or kick out a specific person. Settings and devices. This is where your users would set up their own call forwarding, right? Put a check mark there, +1 area code and phone number. They can set up these as well and click on save, see the status of their devices. And that is everything. Looks like I ran a little long today. I do apologize for that. But I don't see any questions in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and end this training. I thank you for your time today, and we'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time.